Welcome to the Equestrian Pulse podcast, equestrian bloggers taking the pulse of the horse world. Let's meet our bloggers.
Hi everyone, this is Louise Dando from Indue Horse. Indue Horse is a horse girls lifestyle blog which talks about everything horsey, including equestrian travel, events, fashion and interviews, and it also follows my adventures here in France.
This is Heather Wallace of The Timid Rider. I talk about my journey as a returning adult equestrian, sometimes lacking in confidence, but always determined to be bold in and out of the saddle.
Hi everyone, this is Andrea Parker from the Sandorina Ballerina. I'm a dressage rider from Queensland, Australia.
On this episode of Equestrian Pulse, myself, Heather, and Andrea interviewed Tara Moore of Farm and Fur Co. all about small business branding and what we can do now during the pandemic. Hi everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Equestrian Pulse podcast. Today, it is me, Heather, and my fellow co-host, Andrea. We are without Louise today because she can't be bothered. It's the middle of the night in France. And frankly, we wanted to talk to our guests today. So we left Louise in the lurch, and now we're talking to Tara Moore of Farm and Fur Co. Tara, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is my very first podcast, so I'm super excited.
Yay! Well, we're happy to be your first. I was going to go somewhere really dirty, and I decided against it. Have to rein it in because it's live. So the reason we wanted you on, right? Because we're equestrian bloggers here on the podcast, but we're equestrians, we're entrepreneurs, we're business owners in our way, and there's a lot of people out there who are really confused / struggling / maybe doing a 180 right now with this whole COVID-19 situation. Small businesses, like bloggers are really struggling. And you've been posting a lot with your new business and your branding about what these small businesses can do. So first off, can you just tell us a little bit about your business?
Absolutely. So like you said, my business is Farm and Fur Co. So we are a full service creative studio, as I like to call it. We do photography, branding, marketing, and web design for small businesses and brands in the equestrian, farming, and agricultural industries. So I really wanted to go niche with this business because I really see a gap in the market with branding, marketing, web design, and photography all in one, targeting those specific industries. So myself and my good friend Ashley, who owns White Stallion Studio, we kind of put all of our expertise together from working in and out of the equestrian industry and the design industry to make Farm and Fur.
And so you and I go back a little ways.
Yes.
Your business is pretty new, but you've been working in the equine industry for a long time. So I have to imagine even just starting your business, you've had to kind of take your own advice and shuffle a little bit with this whole pandemic.
Oh, absolutely. Even to come up with my business idea earlier this year, I had to shift my thinking because over my career, I have done so many different things in so many different industries. I managed small farms. I took some courses at FIT in New York City to start learning about design. I went to business school. I worked for a software company on the marketing team. I worked in PR in New York City for a crisis and communications PR firm. So for a long time, I actually had a hard time figuring out what my career path was going to be because I actually saw it as a negative that I had so many different jobs in so many different industries that seemingly had nothing to do with each other. And I almost felt kind of lost. And earlier this year, I just wanted to figure out a way that I could pursue my passion working with horses and in the creative design space, but also be on the road to a stable career that I could build for myself. And rather than just choosing one, I put all of them together. And that's really how I came up with the idea. So changing what I always thought was a negative into more of a positive and saying, well, it's actually great that I've been around to all these different industries.
No, that's
Because
so
that's,
true.
I think, that's how I think that I can serve my clients in a way that maybe someone else couldn't, because I've kind of tried a little bit of everything, all different places.
Yeah, such a cool perspective to have. Like, I think it's so easy to see things from one perspective, but if you just shift it that little bit, then all of a sudden it's actually a positive rather than a negative.
Yeah.
And it's so funny too, because for the last 3 or 4 years now, I've been managing this beautiful 45-acre private horse farm. It's really more of an estate. There's no lesson program. It's just the farm owner, 7 horses that are almost retired. And when I first got this job, I was like, okay, this is my dream. Like, I've made it. I've always wanted to live and work on a farm, but I was by myself all day, every day, had no social interaction. And not that I'm complaining, because I absolutely love it here, but still didn't feel fulfilled. And I had always told myself when I was younger, if I could just live on a horse farm and work with horses 24/7, I would be happy. But I still had to seek fulfillment from, social interaction and creating things.
Well, and it's so funny too how your goals and perspectives change. Like, you work so hard for so long to get something, and then you get it, and you can say, okay, what's next? And I think we all do that. I mean, we do that in our day-to-day lives. We
Yep.
do it in our professional lives. I think we do it in writing as well. You go and you meet this goal,
Mhm.
you finally get there, and then you're like, okay, well, what's next? It's not enough, right? Because you
Yep.
always want to keep moving forward. Um,
Yep.
well, and going back to perspective too, I think my husband has said that to me a lot, is that he thinks I should focus and narrow my focus, because I'm doing the podcast, I'm doing the blog, I'm doing the books, I'm doing the body work, I'm doing all this different stuff. But what he doesn't realize is that I've got my hands in a lot of different pies, but they're all connected. And there's all
Yes.
something that I'm learning from each of those, or that's feeding me. And it's very lucky that I'm doing that right now, because with this whole pandemic, I can still do a lot of writing. I can actually
Mhm.
focus on my writing. I can focus on, working with clients, or building changing the website, or there's things I can do. So I think that
Definitely.
that is something I think our listeners would really be interested in. And it's kind of like, the perspective is like, what can they do when they have to shift? What small things can they do to kind of just keep moving forward?
Sure.
So on
Yeah,
your
and I
Instagram
think
lately on Farm and Fur Co, you've had a couple of like some really great inspirational posts, and I think that that's something that a lot of people can benefit from.
sure, absolutely. Yeah, so if you want, I can just dive right in. So my most recent post is one of my favorite quotes by Adam Grant, who's an organizational psychologist, and he says, "When you face rejection, remember you're not being rejected by everyone. It's just one audience rejecting a sample of your work." And the last few weeks, I have been working on my social media for my own branded business. And when I first started my social media page for my business, after probably about 2 weeks or so, I started to get a couple of unfollows. And at first, I was like,
It
oh my
hurts.
gosh. Yeah. I was surprised. I was like, oh, do I need to switch up what I'm posting? Is my content not good enough? But then I realized, well, when I first made my Instagram account, I followed anyone and everyone that I could find. I had no thought process or logic behind building my audience. So it's more likely that those people unfollowed me simply because they might not even be interested in horses. So it's not a personal rejection. I think that a lot of people take to social media for that personal validation. And that's something that we can get from our personal Instagram accounts. But I am so glad that I decided to build a business account for my brand, because even though I have more followers than my personal account, those aren't even the types of followers that I want to target from my business account, if that makes sense.
You kind of have to
Absolutely.
find your tribe, don't you? Like find your people.
Absolutely, yep.
Well, I will
Yeah,
have to say
and
we've
then
kind of adopted her. Like we have a small local equestrian tribe in my area. And basically like we just snagged her and just grabbed her and we're like, no, you're going to hang out with us. And
yeah, because you're smart.
because I'm really cliquey that
and
way.
I'm so grateful for that.
It was like, oh, you want to come take
I'm
photos?
so
Yes.
grateful.
And then let me help you with this. Because I'm really camera shy.
Yeah.
So. Oh, but it's true.
I
That's a
am
good
too,
reminder.
and that, yeah.
You were saying you're camera shy?
Absolutely. I'm camera shy too, and that's actually something that I want to start working on, hopefully within the next week. Is I've been posting a lot about connecting with your audience, and I need to practice what I preach and get a little bit more comfortable recording videos and posting stories of me rather than just pretty pictures that my fiance has taken and I've edited. So I think that that's also something that some small businesses and brands can start to do. I've seen a lot of restaurants, and different types of service industries like that posting tons of behind the scenes pictures and stories on Instagram, which I think is amazing because now we're getting to see the chefs that are cooking everything, the owner that's there every day planning the menu, and some of them are even getting the customers involved saying, what do you want to see on our menu and our meal plan this week? So things like that, keeping up connections with your customers is huge during this time. I've even discovered some businesses on Instagram during this quarantine that I didn't even know of before, just because they have been more active on social media.
That's really interesting. A friend of mine accused me once of hiding behind the camera. I blame it because they say like no one's ever there to take photos of me, but like I could probably set something up and do a remote control. Like, let's be honest.
Right.
But I was thinking like of doing that. Like, okay, like even for the bodywork business, we're trying to do more video and stuff. And it's very uncomfortable for me because I feel like an idiot. So, but I think it's so good because you really can connect with people that way because they're lacking that connection now in person. So like you could connect through social media and use it as a tool for creating a community as opposed to like a sales pitch.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's something that we talk a lot about in branding, because if you break down what branding is, the most simple way to describe it is the way someone feels about your business, the way that you make someone feel, and making that personal connection, even if you don't have a personal brand. Like Farm and Fur Co., it's not my name, but I'm still the face behind the brand. And ultimately, what will make people choose my business over another business is if they can connect with me and if they like me. So that's one of the biggest reasons too why I need to practice what I preach and start getting in front of that camera more.
Well, you know, I'm gonna come out there with my Nikon one day and like actually make you run around the fields and act like a lunatic. So I will not allow you to not be comfortable. But it's true, and I think we all feel a little bit. There's something we're always uncomfortable with when it comes to our business, and I feel like that's probably the thing you need to work on the most. Like for me, it's marketing. I'm very bad at my own marketing. I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be pitchy. That's not natural to me. But I've heard multiple times, it's like, well, you have to go for the ask because people just don't think about it. You have to go for the ask. But it feels so unnatural to me to do that. And I'm better at my service-based industry because I'm like 100%, like I know I can help your animal. But when it comes to my books, it feels like I'm selling myself and it feels real weird.
Yep.
So like for bloggers out there who like,
as a people pleaser.
Right. So like I'm a people pleaser too, which is tough. I'm trying not to be, but I think for Andrea and I, like we're both bloggers and we have a lot of equestrian bloggers that listen to us. Like what would your advice be for them on like what they can do to connect with their audience, maybe, or get over that hump of that one thing that makes them nervous?
Sure. So,
Sorry, throwing out the hard questions.
no, that's okay. I don't spend that much time reading blogs, but I think what could go from blogging to any business is showing your value rather than telling your value. And like I said, this can span across all different industries. So, Heather, you probably blog in your blog about the animal body work stuff that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, not often, but I do. Yeah.
So a lot of those pictures that we took during our sessions, rather than just posting a blog post talking about it, add some of the pictures. I'm not sure if you can add videos to your blog, but if you can, so that to me would connect with your audience probably more so even than just writing about it, because you can actually show the audience what you're doing and talk about it either after or during.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I've been, so we released a video today actually, for animal bodywork, but of course, it was like one of those things where like I was filming, so I was
right, because you're always
I'm behind the
camera.
I'm more comfortable behind the camera.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it's fun too to not just always write, to have different mediums, especially when you're and any business. You can't just be a one trick pony. You have to like you said, have different experience levels. And I think you need to maybe dive into video or dive into a podcast or a vlog or write for somebody else. So like you have to kind of mix it up a little bit, right? Because you probably learn a lot that way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so one thing that I was going to experiment with when we kind of talk about showing value, I have to completely change my whole marketing plan right now. Like, I can't be boots on the ground, going to different businesses, promoting myself. So, one thing that I was thinking was, and this can go for anyone who maybe you're a photographer, I'm sure if you blog, you also take photos. So, you can pick a brand or a business that you really like, order their product online or do curbside pickup, take some photos of that product, of using it in their home, because what a lot of businesses are going to have to start doing, they might have to scrap tons of different photos that they have for their marketing plan of people enjoying their product in large groups. They're going to have to now have photos of people using those products in their home. So if I can take some photos, send it to them and just say, hey, um, I really love your brand. I'd love to work with you guys. Here's some photos. Feel free to use them on your social media and kind of show that value of what I can deliver rather than going to them with a sales pitch and just kind of cold calling. So that was a little bit of a rambly roundabout way, but that's just one example of how you can just really show people what you can do, without having to sound salesy at this time, because I don't think that anyone wants to come out with a sales pitch right now, because we all know that people aren't buying in the same way, so we can't sell in the same way.
No, and I think small businesses need it more than ever too. So it's like a difficult thing because they don't have a lot of money to back them. A lot of them are just
Right.
mom and pop shops or single entrepreneurs or, or very small businesses. And it's like they're having to shift complete direction, which is why I guess it is nice when you're in a niche business, right? I mean, like a horse is a horse is a horse. So you maybe just kind of learn to roll with it.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about us as equestrians too, we are used to constantly adapting because we have to all the time, whether it's for the weather, whether it's for we walk out to the field and our horse through a shoe. I mean, we're so used to adapting in our lives in the barn. So now we have to figure out a way to bring that into our businesses and our personal lives.
Andrew, did you have a question?
Yeah, sorry. I'm just going back to, I guess you're sort of talking about maybe breaking out of our usual comfort zone, and I guess that idea of showing people rather than telling people about our values. Do you have
Yep.
any advice for people, say if they are a blogger and they're used to writing about things? I think one of the biggest barriers to just jumping on the camera and starting to talk about a product or showing it being used is that feeling of not having as much control and the end product not being as perfect as if you just take photos and sit down and write about it. So yes, do you have any advice for how people can start to break down some of that fear of perfection? And yeah,
Like maybe a couple, like a first steps type situation.
yeah,
Sure. So, well, the first thing that comes to mind actually is, now, maybe you can answer this question for me first. When you guys are blogging about different products, are you guys kind of trying to sell those products, or are you just using them for your personal enjoyment and then telling people, why they're really great?
There's a little bit of, it's mostly, it can go like, a product we really love and have bought for ourselves, or something that maybe we approached a brand about, or a brand
Okay.
approached us. And if that's the case, then it would be a sponsored post, which is
Okay.
a paid ad, basically.
Got it. Okay. So I don't know if this would work as great for those paid ads, but what I think a lot of people resonate with is relatability. So let's say you are testing out a product and it's not going super smoothly, and now you have this video or this content, or you really wanted to show the process of something that you can't redo. I think that people sometimes relate better to that and seeing all of the little missteps and you being able to be lighthearted and joking about it, rather than always having this perfect image of perfectionism. It's kind of like when you post things on your feed on your social media, you want those to be picture perfect. But then when you go into your stories, that's when you can kind of show those more fun personality moments.
So question, what if they're always bloopers and then you have like one perfect one? Asking for a friend.
Yeah, it never happens to us.
Never happens to me, especially. It's funny you say that. I was actually with my business partner. We were talking about doing more videos, informational and educational, for like this, the services we provide, like a little bit about why we do this or what we see, And I told her, I was like, we need to have like a whole playlist of just bloopers, like just bloopers.
I mean, people love to see that.
Well, and we're kind of silly anyway, so it's like, we got the professional side and then the real side.
Right.
But with blogging, I don't know, I just feel like I really need to be professional.
Well, I think we have this idea of we have an idea of what people want to see versus perhaps what people actually want to see. And
Right.
I guess if you look at the Instagram bloggers who kind of do really well, they're those people who strike that right balance between the beautiful aesthetic but also showing who they, I'm using bunny quotes around authentically,
Yeah.
who they authentically are.
And that's a hard line to straddle for, I think, for any person on social media, much less a brand or an influencer. I really hate that term, but whatever. That is a difficult thing. And I always kind of make a joke about even my Instagram, saying, I'm like, sorry, I don't have a professional photographer like following me around on a horse, but like, here you go. It's another selfie. But I guess that's kind of like true to my brand.
Yeah. Staying true to your brand, absolutely.
Sorry, not sorry. But really, I mean, who wouldn't love to have that, but it's a difficult thing to kind of figure out that right note, because you want people to like you, you want, and and for anybody on social media, like I have a private Instagram account. I have very few followers and I barely post to it because I actually really do mostly use social media for connecting with business and networking and colleagues. And so my brain is always geared to like, work for, like, social media equals work. And I really need to focus more on like community aspect, like building like a community. And because I've kind of stepped away from all my like blogger groups and things, like I've been so busy, I feel like I've really lost that connection.
Yeah. Yeah, and as we keep talking about social media, I think that social media is the best way that people can stay connected with their community right now. Even if you're a barn manager or a trainer, I've seen so many trainers posting way more on Instagram now, just tagging their boarders and their clients with pictures and videos of their horses, and just keeping themselves kind of at top of mind, but also realizing that their customers and clients are really missing their horses right now, and that's the best that they can do to close that gap.
What do you think your advice would be to people who are like really struggling with this right now? Like, a small business or like a barn manager or somebody who's really just like feeling a little bit lost. Like, what advice would you give to them during this whole thing?
Sure. So this all goes back to what we talked about earlier with just changing our thinking, because a lot of people are saying that we're not going to go back to business as usual once these lockdowns are lifted. So one thing that I had posted on my first Conquering Quarantine tip on social media was just specific things that barn managers and trainers can do to not only pull themselves out of that hole personally, but kind of give them a little bit more of that purpose again with connecting with their clients and boarders. Because to me, obviously, I love working with horses, but one of the best parts about being a barn manager or being a trainer is connecting with the clients. And obviously, we're not able to really do that so personally right now. So, a couple specific examples of what they can do to maybe build some long term solutions for what's hopefully a short term problem. One thing that I had posted about was trainers can make special workouts for their clients that specifically target the muscles that you use when you ride. Because I'm sure all of these people who are at home are probably doing workouts that maybe their gym is posting, but a trainer can kind of keep themselves relevant by specifically targeting the muscles that you use when you ride. So next time you ride, you can take a video of yourself, think a little bit more deeply about exactly what muscles are working. And we all know that a lot of muscles work when we ride. So you'll be no short of having things to talk about. And then when you get off your horse, think of different things that you can do using maybe a wheelbarrow with some mulch bags, things that people will have around their home that maybe some of these trainers from gyms aren't using in their workout videos. Make some videos for your clients. If they end up really liking it, you can make this more of a long term solution by possibly hosting farm fit classes at your farm once everybody can be there together. A lot of people don't really like going to the gym, but if they enjoy the little workouts that you put together, maybe it's just something fun and new that you can add to your barn community, even if it's just once a month to keep people connected. So, thinking of new ways to get your community involved will kind of give you a little bit more purpose to get through this time and just remind you that we're still working towards something. Nothing is ending, nothing is stopping. This won't last forever. We all still have to work towards something.
I think that's important to have a goal. I think the people that lose focus are the ones that are, like, I have days, I'm sure Andrea, you have days where you're just like, oh, another one of these. And like, then you get up the next day, you're like, no, I'm going to do this with my day. And like, I think having a goal is a great idea. I don't know,
Having
Andrea,
a
I think
goal,
you're more
having a
likely to work out
routine.
at home than I am, though.
And I suppose it's different for me because I feel like my life hasn't hugely changed. We're in a slightly different situation. here in Australia, and because I've got a government job in health, like I'm still working 5 days a week, and we're still able to go to our horses and ride. So not as much, but I guess like even just looking for different ways to interact with people. And normally I would be going to the gym. I have switched over to doing at-home workouts off apps. I would love something like that from a trainer who actually knows what I need to be doing, rather than me just guessing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you can just relate it back to the horses and back to riding and make it all about keeping up your strength so that you can jump right back into it, I think a lot of people would prefer that than just working out, from some YouTube videos.
Yeah. And actually too, and there's been this whole like to ride or not to ride thing. For the people who are riding, potentially their trainers, they could send a video of them riding to their trainers and have their trainers, get on a Zoom call and do real-time feedback while they watch the video. Absolutely. And give them that so they could do kind of virtual training. I thought I heard about this big upper level rider doing something similar. She had an app and things like that. And so it just made me think of that.
Wallace Jordan.
That's who it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but just even the smaller trainers can do that for their clients. And,
absolutely.
Try to think outside the box. Like, I think this is a good time to step back and just reassess. Like, where do you want your business to go? What haven't you had the time to work on until now? And like, what can move you forward? Because I think if you focus on like what you can't do, that's going to be a real problem. You got to change your mindset, like you said.
Yep. And I think a lot of people always have in the back of their mind, this is something I want to do eventually. This is something that I want to change. This is something that I want to try. We have never had a moment in time where we have more time to do all of those things.
That is a very good way of looking at it, except for Andrea, who's still working and writing.
Well, that's true. I mean, yeah, if you're working in healthcare, especially right now, I mean, huge thank you, because you guys are keeping everything going right now.
Oh, I'm not the right person to thank. I'm just a dietitian.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it all starts with a healthy diet, right? I mean, your body can't be healthy unless what you put in it is. So
very true.
I mean, that's think hilarious coming from me. I'm sure my husband's laughing in the background because I eat like a 12-year-old boy. So
hey, it's all about balance. And I think probably on that note, it's just worth acknowledging, like, we're not talking in this episode to people who have lost their jobs and are really struggling to get by day to day. This is people who have a degree of financial security and need to find a way to pivot their business.
Yep, absolutely.
Very good point. Very good point. And like, we hope this will end soon, and we hope it's done in the right way so this doesn't have to happen again. But this is a really good reminder of like what is important. And I think we do need to kind of take stock and say, like, okay, like, what should our focus be? And I guess it's time too that you can take more time and learn new things that maybe you haven't wanted to before, to put towards your business or your blog or your family or your horse. My horse is going to be out of condition when we get back, and I'm not going to have too much time before the summer to get him into condition, but I don't want to rush it. So I'm doing my research, I'm making a plan, and I'm actually, hoping that it is helpful to other people as well, what I find. So that's kind of one thing horse related that I'm trying to focus on myself. How about you, Andrea? Do you have anything that you're focusing on right now?
Yeah, a couple of things. I am kind of being forced to learn a bit more about classical dressage because Money, as I am discovering, has some very bad habits in the way that she uses her body, which my physio is like slowly helping me to unpick. So I probably need to brush up on some more of the theory behind dressage, which will be interesting.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
How about you, Tara?
That's such a great Well, I was just going to say that's such a great point that I think a lot of people are deciding to use this time for education. So that's another something too that people out there can do within their businesses, even if you're a trainer or barn manager. Think of what are the key topics that you can maybe educate someone on, and then just host maybe some free Zoom classes with all of your clients. Or I put out in a post, do a series on horse care for your clients' kids. A lot of people, I think, are looking to learn virtually right now. So
Mm.
like you guys said, though, my day to day, I'm very lucky, hasn't changed very much. I'm still taking care of the horses every morning and afternoon, and then in between, just working on my own business. But like you said, we all seem to kind of have the luxury of time without having to worry so much about the financial burden that a lot of people are feeling out there. So definitely grateful for that.
Mm.
So grateful. I am very grateful for my husband who's working 16 hours a day from our basement right now. So
Oh man, that is a tough gig.
yeah. So but it's only temporary. This whole thing is only temporary, and
Yeah.
well, Tara, tell our listeners where they can find you on your website and social media, so in case they have questions or want to follow you.
Sure, absolutely. So you can find me at farmandfurco.com, and that's fir as in fir tree, FIR. So think farm and forest. So farmandfurco.com, farmandfurco underscore on Instagram, and farmandfurco also on Facebook. And very recently on Pinterest. That's something that I've been
Oh
working
yay.
on.
That'll be a good one. Yeah, I've really let my Pinterest slide. So maybe you
And
could
actually
help me with that.
Pinterest is something that, like, business owners, this is probably, if there's something like that you've been wanting to get into, now is the time to sit down and figure out how
Totally.
it works.
I know.
Yes,
I'm
and
really
Pinterest
just
does take some figuring out, which I wasn't expecting that it was going to take so much figuring out.
I used to do a lot more with it when I was doing like more product reviews and brand stuff, and then right now I've just created a YouTube channel for my business, so I'm going to focus on like actually doing video content for a bit and
That's
writing, because I've
awesome.
got a whole bunch of magazine deadlines coming up. So, but I can't really type because I have a busted finger, so it's going to be very
Oh,
interesting.
Yeah, what did you do to that finger?
I'm an idiot. If we had a video of my life, it would basically be a old vaudeville type video. So I was cleaning my house, which I'm not used to doing because I have a housekeeper, but she's not allowed in my house right now. So I was trying to be a good little wifey and mom, and I was done, and I was moving the chair back to the table, and it slipped, and the seat of the chair bashed my hand and knuckles against the actual side of the table pretty damn bad. It's not broken, but I severely jacked it up all the way to the elbow, apparently. So, yay me!
Oh,
And it's my
man.
dominant hand. It's my dominant hand.
Oh, of course.
So
Don't
even if
let
I wanted
anyone
to
tell
ride, I
you.
couldn't.
Yeah, don't let anyone tell you that housework's not dangerous.
I shouldn't be allowed to do
Clearly.
things. Like I really shouldn't be allowed to do things like in general. So I just like that day I was like, I give up on life. Like that's it. I'm just done. I'm good. So, but the good news is I don't have to use this finger to massage horses, but I do need it for typing,
Good.
and so I'm only doing the one and not the other right now. Yeah. Don't be like me. Well, Tara, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
It's always a
Thank you
pleasure.
guys so much for having me.
You're welcome.
It was great to meet you, and Heather, it was so great to see you.
Yes, I know. We actually see each other, on the Zoom call. Well, and for those of you who don't know, and Andrea, Tara lives like literally 10, 15 minutes down the street from me. So she was my daughter's trainer for a while at the Therapeutic Riding Center. So we've gone way back, although we've just kind of recently connected for business. So it's pretty exciting. I love what you're doing with your brand, and I'm no doubt you're going to help a whole bunch of people, including me. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
So that is another episode, a wrap on another episode. Obviously, that's another episode. And it was really great talking to Tara and hearing the advice that she had for businesses and bloggers, and just how we can start to think about doing things a little bit differently. So I guess if any of our listeners have any ideas or found anything particularly helpful, we would definitely love to hear from you. So make sure
or even if they maybe have questions, maybe she can answer. I'm sure I'll think of one.
Yeah. Yeah. And definitely make sure that you go and follow her on Instagram, because her business account is just absolutely beautiful.
It's stunning, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is really, she's done a good job. She's really just started the turn of the year, and already she's really kind of made a impression locally with some of our, like, the equestrian brands that are here. And but she's got like a real viewpoint, which is nice, and you don't always see that coming out of the gate. So, and it's nice that she's so knowledgeable, and even though she's just starting out, because like she's actually going through this now, and then also helping other people do the same thing.
But I think, like she was saying, you know, having that experience behind her of working in all those different industries, and like she said, working for a crisis response and planning company, or I've probably butchered that, but like how invaluable would that be now? Like, because that's really about putting a positive spin on things, or how you react to situations as they unfold. So
well, and what she didn't mention, and this is how I actually know her, is she's a PATH certified riding instructor. She worked at the local therapeutic facility that my daughter has ridden at since she was 4, and then she became the director of another one. She actually ran an entire riding program with children with disabilities, adults with disabilities and PTSD, and managed all the horses and stuff too. Like, that's a lot.
I feel like we maybe need to get her back on to talk about that, because that's incredible.
It is incredible. And think about too, like the amount of money you need to pull that off, and it's all nonprofit. So that you've got to know your stuff.
Yeah.
And the fact that she didn't talk about it is like, she just decided she was just going to step down from that and just try her luck and start her dream business. And that's what she's doing right now. So she's basically, it's such an inspiration just in what she's doing, and because she's living it by example. So I know she wouldn't say those things, so I'm going to go ahead and say them for her.
Give her a plug.
I'm going to just, but you know, it's one of those things where it's like, sometimes we have to reinvent ourselves and just take the chance. And what better time to do that now as a small business or a solopreneur? Take a little bit of a risk, because we literally have nothing to lose at this point.
Yeah, definitely.
So it was great talking to her, but another fun episode of me talking the whole time. I'm so sorry.
It is fun.
And thank you to all our listeners who still deal with me and and subscribe and listen. And so if you haven't subscribed to our podcast, please do so on any variety of Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or I guess it's iTunes, whatever, you know it, the list.
Stitcher.
Yeah.
Subscribe to us in one of the places, please.
We're all of the places.
You never miss an episode.
Yes, we won't spam you, but they will.
And also, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, make sure you share a screenshot in your Instagram stories and tag us in it. That's super helpful for helping other people to find us.
Yeah, and we'd love to share that stuff on our stories as well.
Sure do.
And if you have a question for Tara about branding or business or anything like that, you know, shoot it into the comments of our social media post. Send it to us on Instagram. We'd love to share that kind of stuff, and Tara will definitely be happy to answer.
Thank you so much for joining us on this second part of our COVID-19 coverage on the Equestrian Pulse podcast. Please maintain best practices in hygiene, social distancing, and self-isolation. If anybody in your family or your home is showing any symptoms of illness, it's just better to play it safe, and let's flatten this curve and get back into the arena as soon as possible.